All right, today we are diving into something that feels like a huge U-turn. We're talking about Sweden, a global tech leader suddenly deciding to swap tablets for old school textbooks in its classrooms. It's a really bold move, and it's making educators everywhere kind of stop and think about what learning in the digital age should actually look like.
And that's the big question, right? Why would a country that was basically the poster child for the digital classroom suddenly hit the brakes and bring back pen and paper? Is a really fascinating story, and honestly, the answer could have huge implications for schools all over the world. So, to really get how big of a deal this is, you first have to understand just how committed Sweden was to digital first education. I mean, they weren't just testing the waters, they dove in headfirst.
Yeah, Sweden wasn't just using technology, they were the gold standard, the country everyone pointed to. We're talking about a place that mandated digital devices right from preschool. For years, if you wanted to see the future of education, you looked at Sweden.
But then, something started to go wrong. The data that was coming out of this high-tech experiment, well, it wasn't what anyone expected. These little cracks started to appear, showing a pattern of decline that was just too big to ignore. And one of the first things teachers on the ground noticed was this strange paradox. The kids were amazing with technology, right? They could swipe, click, and navigate anything you put in front of them. But when it came time to actually sit with a dense piece of text and really understand it, they were struggling.
And look, this wasn't just a hunch. The numbers were alarming. For example, a big international reading study showed that Swedish fourth grader scores had dropped pretty significantly in just 5 years. This was a clear trend across the board. Reading skills, attention spans, you name it. And the government knew it had a problem.
So this brings us to this really crucial idea, deep reading. What is that? Well, it's more than just being able to see words on a page. It's all the stuff your brain does to analyze, to connect ideas, and to actually remember complex information. It's the difference between scrolling through a social media feed and truly getting lost in a chapter of a book.
So, after seeing all these warning signs, Sweden didn't just try a quick fix. Nope. Faced with this mountain of evidence, they made a super decisive, super bold move. They decided to launch what people are now calling the analog revival.
And just so we're clear, this wasn't some casual recommendation. The government is putting serious money behind this shift. We're talking over $100 million in just the next couple of years, all to get physical printed textbooks back into schools. This is a massive, top-down national strategy.
The new game plan is actually pretty straightforward. First, bring back physical books as the main learning tool. Second, make handwriting a priority again to help build those fine motor skills. And third, and this is so important, technology isn't going away, but it's being repositioned as a supplement, not the star of the show.
Okay, so why are they putting all this faith in old school methods? Well, it's not about nostalgia. This entire decision is actually grounded in some pretty compelling neuroscience. The alarm bells were really first sounded by researchers at the world-famous Karolinska Institute in Sweden. Their neuroscientists found evidence that the physical feeling of writing by hand, the pen on the paper, activates parts of the brain tied to learning and memory in a way that just typing on a screen doesn't. Their research drew a direct line from the decline in skills to being way too reliant on digital tools. When we interact with a physical book or write something down by hand, our brain just works differently. That tactile feeling of turning a page, the physical motion of forming letters, those things light up unique pathways in our brain. It creates a physical connection that helps us remember things better and understand them on a much deeper level than when we're just scrolling on a screen, which kind of encourages our brains to just skim the surface. So, let's be clear, this isn't about going back in time. It's actually about trying to build a smarter future. As Sweden gets ready to roll this all out by 2026, they're basically creating a whole new blueprint for education, and you can bet the rest of the world is watching closely. The goal here isn't to get rid of technology. I mean, look at this breakdown. It's not anti-tech, it's pro-learning. They're shooting for a model where the core foundation is built with hands-on analog learning, and then digital tools are brought in strategically to make that foundation even stronger, not to replace it.
So the end goals are pretty clear. Turn those literacy numbers around, help kids develop the ability to actually focus, and build up those really strong foundational skills. But here's the great paradox.
Sweden believes that by taking a small step back from tech in the classroom, they're actually better preparing their students to succeed in our hyper-complex digital world.
And that brings us to the final, huge question. Is what Sweden's doing just a temporary fix, or are we watching the blueprint for the future of education being written right before our very eyes? It's a powerful question for every parent, every teacher, and every policymaker out there to think about.